Three archaeologists stand in Turkish desert heat. 112 degrees Fahrenheit, sweat soaking through their shirts in seconds. They're staring at a stone pillar, 11,600 years old, carved with perfect precision. Intricate reliefs of animals that shouldn't exist together. Scorpions, foxes, vultures, snakes, all on one pillar. And here's the thing. This was made 5,000 years before Stonehenge, 6,000 years before the pyramids, built when humans supposedly lived in caves and hunted with wooden spears. But someone moved stones weighing 16 tons, carved them with tools that didn't exist, arranged them in perfect circles, then buried the whole thing deliberately. Göbekli Tepe. Science calls it impossible. Yet you can touch it, walk through it, feel the limestone cool under your fingers despite the desert sun. And it's just one of 15 ancient finds that break every rule, defy every timeline. Make archaeologists go quiet when you ask the simple question, how? Official history says civilization started 5,000 years ago. Mesopotamia, Egypt, nice, neat timeline. Agriculture, writing, cities, linear progression. But these 15 objects don't fit that story. They're older, more sophisticated, built with knowledge that vanished. And when scientists can't explain them, they do something interesting. They stop talking about them. So here's what I want you to think about. If our ancestors were primitive, if they barely survived, if they had no technology, then who built these things? And more importantly, why did that knowledge disappear? Drop your theory in the comments, because the official explanation doesn't cover what you're about to see. Let's start with something small, something you could hold in your hand. The Antikythera mechanism sits behind glass in Athens. Bronze, corroded green, looks like a lump of nothing. But X-rays tell a different story. Inside that corroded bronze, 37 gear wheels, differential gears, epicyclic gearing. A hand crank input system that calculated astronomical positions decades in advance. It's a computer. Built in 87 BC. Found in a shipwreck off the Greek island of Antikythera in 1901. Sat in a museum for 50 years before anyone understood what it did. Here's the problem. The next device with this level of mechanical complexity doesn't appear until 1400 AD, 1300 years later. Medieval astronomical clocks in Europe, 13 centuries of nothing. Technology doesn't work that way. You don't invent differential gears and then forget how to make them for 1,000 years. Knowledge builds, it compounds. You improve the design, make it smaller, faster, more accurate. But this mechanism stands alone. No prototypes, no earlier versions, no instruction manual. Just one perfect device pulled from the Mediterranean Sea. Scientists at University College London spent 12 years building a digital model, published their findings in 2021. Their conclusion, quote, "The device's sophistication is comparable to that of 18th century clocks. 1800 AD technology in 87 BC hands." Derek DeSola Price, the Yale professor who first X-rayed it in 1974, said something interesting. He said, "Finding something like this is like finding a jet plane in Tutankhamun's tomb." But here's what nobody talks about. If the Greeks had this in 87 BC, what else did they have? And where did those other devices go? The ship that carried the Antikythera mechanism sank. That's the only reason we found it. How many other ships made it to their destination? How many mechanisms were melted down for bronze, repurposed, lost, destroyed? We only know about this one because it failed to reach port. Makes you wonder what succeeded. Now let's go bigger. A lot bigger. Baalbek, Lebanon. Roman ruins on top of much older ruins. The Temple of Jupiter sits on a foundation of stones so massive they have their own name. The Trilithon. 3 stones, each one 64 feet long, 14 feet high, 12 feet deep. Weight, 800 tons, each. That's the weight of 3 Boeing 747 jets per stone. And they're positioned 23 feet above ground level, fitted together so precisely you can't slide a razor blade between them. No mortar, no gaps. Just perfect contact across the entire surface. Romans built the temple, documented everything they built, kept records. We know their techniques, cranes, pulleys, ramps. The engineering is well understood. But they didn't build the foundation. Roman records call it the platform. Mention it was already there, already ancient. They built on top of it because moving those stones was beyond Roman capability, and Rome could move serious weight. The Vatican obelisk weighs 326 tons. Took 900 men and 75 horses to move it 800 feet in 1596. Took 4 months. Nearly killed Pope Sixtus V's chief engineer. The Trilithon stones are twice that weight. Positioned with millimeter precision, lifted 23 feet up. Modern cranes can lift 800 tons. Barely. The Taisun crane in China, rated for 20,000 metric tons, one of the largest in the world. It could theoretically lift 1 trilithon stone. But could it position it with 0 tolerance? Could it set it down so perfectly that no mortar is needed? Could it do this 3 times in a row without GPS, without computers, without laser levels? Maybe. But here's the real question. Why? Why use stones that size? The Romans didn't. They used stones they could actually move, 3 to 5 tons, manageable. You use the minimum material necessary for structural integrity. Using 800-ton stones is like building a house with shipping containers when bricks exist. It's not just inefficient, it's deliberately difficult. Unless moving 800-ton stones wasn't difficult for whoever built the platform. 3rd century historian Macrobius wrote about Baalbek. Said the temple was so ancient that no one remembered who built it. Locals told him the gods built it. The old gods. Before the Romans, before the Greeks, before memory. In the quarry, half a mile away, sits another stone. The stone of the pregnant woman. 1,200 tons, partially cut, never moved, just sitting there, waiting. Let's shift continents. South America. Tumapunku, Bolivia. 13,000 feet above sea level. Air so thin you gasp walking up steps. Oxygen at 68% of sea level. Try doing construction work up there. Now try cutting andesite and granite into complex interlocking shapes with bronze tools. Bronze is softer than granite.
Copper is softer than andesite. It's like trying to cut steel with aluminum. Can't be done. Yet someone did it. And they did it with precision that makes modern engineers uncomfortable. H-blocks. Perfectly symmetrical. Multiple surfaces ground flat to within 1 millimeter tolerance. Right angles exact. Corners sharp. Internal channels cut at 90-degree angles. These aren't decorative. They're modular components. Plug-and-play architecture. Cut one block to fit another with such precision
that water can't penetrate the joint. Arthur Poznański, a German engineer, surveyed Pumapunku for 40 years. Died in 1946, still trying to explain it. He measured the H-blocks, checked the angles, tested the tolerances. His conclusion? Machined. Not hand-carved. Machined. He dated the site to 15,000 BC based on astronomical alignments. Academia laughed him out of the room. Too old, impossible. Humans in 15,000 BC didn't build. They hunted, they gathered.
They survived. But then Göbekli Tepe got excavated.
11,600 years old. Older than agriculture. Older than civilization. Poznański suddenly didn't seem so crazy. Modern dating of Pumapunku puts it around 536 AD. Tiwanaku culture. But that's dating the culture that used the site, not the culture that built it. Same problem as Baalbek. Later people built on top of earlier work, used it, repurposed it, claimed it. Doesn't mean they built it. The Tiwanaku people worked with bronze. We've found their tools, simple chisels, hammers, nothing that could cut andesite with millimeter precision. Nothing that could create perfectly flat surfaces across multiple planes. And here's something nobody mentions. The H-blocks show no tool marks. None. The surface is smooth, polished, like it was melted and poured rather than carved. But andesite melts at 2,100 degrees Fahrenheit. Granite at 2,300.
What heat source did they have? Now let's talk about something that shouldn't exist at all. The Baghdad Battery. Found in 1936 outside Baghdad. Terracotta jar, copper cylinder inside, iron rod down the center, sealed with asphalt. It's 2,000 years old, and when you fill it with vinegar or acidic liquid, it produces 1.1 volts of electricity. It's a battery. Wilhelm Koenig, the German archaeologist who found it, tested it, wrote a paper in 1938, proposed it was used for electroplating gold onto silver. Ancient Mesopotamians were known for gold-plated objects. Thin layers, even coverage. Hard to do without electricity. The British Museum has 12 of these jars, stored, labeled, not displayed, because they're controversial, because they imply knowledge that shouldn't exist. Official history says Alessandro Volta invented the battery in 1800 AD. First electrochemical cell, revolutionary, changed the world. But if the Baghdad battery works, and it does, then batteries existed 1,700 years earlier. Skeptics say it's not a battery, say it held scrolls, say the electrical properties are coincidental, but the design is too specific. Copper cylinder insulated from iron rod by asphalt seal. Identical to modern battery design. Terminal on top. Acid electrolyte in the middle. Two dissimilar metals creating electrical potential. That's not coincidence. That's engineering. And if they had batteries, what did they power? We don't know. Because we haven't found the devices, only the power source. Like finding a gas can in an ancient ruin. Proof that something needed fuel. But the engine is missing. Back to stones, because stones last. Technology rusts, knowledge burns, but stone endures. The Longyu Caves in China, discovered in 1992 when locals pumped water from ponds. Expected to find bedrock, found caverns instead. 24 caves carved from solid sandstone. Total area, 32,000 square meters. Ceiling height, 98 feet in places. Angle of walls, exactly 60 degrees. Throughout. Every cave, every wall.
60-degree precision across 32,000 square meters. Pillars supporting the ceiling, evenly spaced, symmetrical. Weight distribution calculated perfectly. Not one collapse in 2,000 years. Tool marks on walls, parallel lines, consistent depth, same angle. Millions of chisel marks, each one identical to the last. Here's the problem. No one knows who carved them. No records, no inscriptions, no artifacts, no historical mention. And here's the bigger problem. Volume of stone removed, 1 million cubic meters. That much sandstone doesn't disappear. You're excavating 36 million cubic feet of rock. Where did it go? No debris piles outside, no dump sites, no evidence of removal. 1 million cubic meters of sandstone vanished. Engineers from Tongji University spent 2 years studying the caves. Published findings in 2022. They calculated the labor required, assuming 1,000 workers, assuming primitive tools, assuming 12-hour days, assuming perfect efficiency. Time needed, 46 years, minimum. But that's just excavation. Doesn't include maintaining 60-degree angles. Doesn't include parallel tool marks. Doesn't include ceiling support calculations. Realistically, triple that time, maybe more. So you're looking at 150 years of continuous construction for no apparent reason. No living spaces, no storage, no religious iconography, no burials. Just empty, symmetrical caves carved with impossible precision. Why? Let's go underwater, because some of the strangest finds are submerged. Yonaguni Monument, Japan. Discovered in 1987 by a dive instructor. 25 meters below sea level, massive stone structure. Terraces, ramps, flat platforms, right angles, stepped pyramid design. Looks man-made.
Geologists say it's natural. Archaeologists say it's too symmetrical to be natural. Debate has raged for 37 years. But here's the thing nobody disputes. If it's natural, it's the only natural formation like it on Earth. Unique geological accident, one of a kind. And if it's man-made, it's been underwater for 10,000 years. Because sea levels rose after the last ice age, around 8,000 BC, which means it was built before the ice age ended, before agriculture, before civilization. Professor Masaki Kimura from Ryukyu University spent 15 years diving the site, mapped every angle, measured every terrace, found tool marks, found what appears to be a carved face, found pictographs. His conclusion, man-made, built around 8,000 BC, submerged when oceans rose. Geology professor Robert Schoch from Boston University dove it too, saw the same features, reached opposite conclusion. Natural erosion, tectonic activity, coincidental symmetry. Two experts. Same evidence, opposite conclusions. But Schoch admits the right angles are unusual, admits the platforms are suspiciously flat, admits that if it were on land, he'd call it a structure. It's only underwater that he calls it natural. Think about that. Same object, different context, different conclusion. But physics doesn't care about context. A right angle is a right angle. A terrace is a terrace. Water doesn't change geometry. And here's something interesting. Local legend talks about a lost city, mentions it in oral tradition going back centuries, describes a palace under the sea. Legend says the gods built it, says it was destroyed in one day, swallowed by the ocean. Sounds familiar, right?
Every culture has a flood myth. Every coastline has stories of lost cities. Maybe because coastlines changed dramatically. Sea levels rose 394 feet after the last ice age. Happened over thousands of years. Entire coastal civilizations would have been swallowed. And if you built on the coast in 10,000 BC, your structures are now 400 feet underwater. We've mapped 5% of the ocean floor. 5%. We've mapped Mars better than our own oceans. What's in the other 95%? Now, something really small. So small you need a microscope. The Dropa stones. 716 granite discs discovered in Chinese caves in 1938. Each disc, 12 inches diameter. Spiral groove carved from center to edge, like a vinyl record. Groove contains symbols, tiny pictographs. Each symbol 1 centimeter tall, carved into granite, in a spiral pattern, on 716 separate discs. Age, 12,000 years old. Chinese archaeologist Qi Pute brought them to Beijing, spent 20 years trying to decode them, died in 1974, published 1 paper before his death. According to his translation, the symbols tell a story. A crash, visitors from the stars, a damaged ship. Survivors hiding in caves, local tribespeople killing them. Academia destroyed him, called him a fraud, discredited his work, buried his research. But the discs exist. They're in museums. You can see them, touch them. The spiral grooves are there, the symbols are there. And granite is one of the hardest stones on Earth. Carving it requires tools we can measure. Bronze leaves marks. Iron leaves different marks. Diamond-tipped tools leave specific patterns. The Dropa stones show no tool marks, just smooth grooves, perfect spirals, consistent depth. How do you carve granite without leaving evidence of how you carved it? Soviet scientists examined 4 discs in 1968, ran tests, found the granite contained high concentrations of cobalt and other metals, made the discs unusually hard, also made them slightly magnetic. When they measured electrical properties, the discs showed oscillation, like they'd been exposed to high voltage at some point. Why would 12,000-year-old discs have electrical properties? The symbols remain undecoded. Qi Pute's translation is dismissed. No one else has successfully translated them. But no one has proved they're meaningless either. 716 granite records, carved with unknown tools, containing unknown information, hidden in caves for 12,000 years. Let's talk about maps, because sometimes the most disturbing finds are on paper. The Piri Reis map, created in 1513 by Ottoman Admiral Piri Reis, shows the Atlantic Ocean, South America, West Africa, and Antarctica. Problem: Antarctica wasn't discovered until 1820, 307 years after this map was drawn. Bigger problem: the map shows the Antarctic coastline, the actual coastline, under the ice. We didn't map the subglacial coast until 1949, using seismic equipment, ground-penetrating radar. Took years. But it's on the Piri Reis map in 1513. The map has notes written on it. Piri Reis says he compiled it from 20 earlier maps, some dating to the time of Alexander the Great, some even older. He mentions source maps from the Library of Alexandria before it burned. Professor Charles Hapgood from Keene State College analyzed the map in 1956, brought in cartography experts. They confirmed the longitude is accurate. The latitude is accurate. The coastline matches seismic data from 1949. Hapgood wrote to the U.S. Air Force, asked them to verify. They did. Response letter from Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Harold Z. Ohlmeyer, dated 1960. The geographical details shown in the lower part of the map agrees very remarkably with the results of the seismic profile made across the top of the ice cap. This indicates the coastline had been mapped before it was covered by the ice cap. Before it was covered by ice. Antarctica hasn't been ice-free for 6,000 years. Minimum, maybe longer.
So who mapped it, and how? You can't map a coastline from orbit. You need ships. You need expeditions. You need surveyors physically walking the coast, taking measurements, recording features. You need a civilization with ships, navigation tools, mathematics, cartography knowledge. 6,000 years ago. But official history says civilization began 5,000 years ago. Mesopotamia, Egypt, writing, agriculture. The timeline doesn't work. Unless it's wrong. Here's something carved in stone, literally. The Antikythera youth. Bronze statue pulled from the same shipwreck as the mechanism. But forget the statue. Look at the cargo list. That ship carried 36 marble statues, bronze sculptures, glassware, coins, jewelry, art from across the Mediterranean. And the Antikythera mechanism. One computer among dozens of art pieces. Suggests the mechanism wasn't unique, wasn't special, was just another luxury item being transported. Like finding an iPhone in a box with clothes and books. Normal cargo. Expected technology. Which means computers were normal in ancient Greece. Or, at least, not uncommon enough to warrant special mention. But we only have one. Because the ship sank. Every other mechanism made it to destination, got used, broke down, was repaired, eventually recycled, melted for bronze, lost to time. The knowledge didn't disappear because it was suppressed. It disappeared because bronze is valuable. You don't throw it away. You melt it down, reuse it. How many ancient computers became swords, shields, coins? We'll never know. Now, let's go to Egypt, because Egypt always delivers. The Osirian at Abydos. Massive underground structure, megalithic blocks, each one weighing 60 to 80 tons, positioned below the water table, on purpose, designed to flood. Central island surrounded by channels, water flowing through chambers. Egyptologists say it's a cenotaph, fake tomb for Pharaoh Seti I. Built around 1279 BC, but the architecture doesn't match at all. Seti's temple above ground, intricate carvings, detailed hieroglyphs, thin limestone blocks, classic New Kingdom style. The Osirian below, no carvings, no hieroglyphs, massive granite blocks, cyclopean architecture, completely different construction method. Geologist Dr. Robert Schock examined the water erosion, compared it to other structures. His conclusion? The Osirian is far older than Seti's temple, possibly pre-dynastic, before pharaohs, before hieroglyphs, before recorded history. The blocks are fitted without mortar, cut at right angles, positioned with millimeter precision. Same technique as Baalbek, same impossible engineering. And here's something strange. The structure was buried, on purpose, filled with sand and rubble, hidden. Seti didn't bury it. He excavated it, found it already there, built his temple on top, claimed it. Common pattern in Egypt. Later dynasties building on top of earlier structures, repurposing foundations, adding facades.
But the foundation is always older, always more sophisticated, always beyond explanation. The Great Pyramid has no hieroglyphs inside, none. No pharaoh's name, no dedication, no inscriptions. Every other Egyptian tomb is covered with writing. Walls, ceilings, sarcophagi, they document everything. But the Great Pyramid, silence. Why? Unless it wasn't a tomb. Unless it was something else, something built before pharaohs needed to advertise. Let me show you something that really bothers archaeologists. The Sacsayhuaman walls in Peru, Cusco, built from stones weighing up to 200 tons, fitted together like puzzle pieces. Irregular, polygonal shapes, no two stones the same. Each one custom cut to fit perfectly against neighbors. No gaps, no mortar. Earthquake-proof. Cusco experiences earthquakes, big ones. Spanish colonial buildings collapse, churches crumble, modern structures crack.
The Sacsayhuaman walls don't budge. 500 years of earthquakes, still standing, still perfectly fitted. Spanish chronicler Pedro Cieza de Leon wrote about them in 1550. Said the Inca claimed they didn't build them. Said the walls were already ancient when the Inca arrived. Built by giants, by gods, before memory. The Inca used the walls, added to them, built on top. But the foundation stones, the massive 200-ton precisely fitted blocks, those were already there. Modern stonemasons have tried to replicate the technique. Can't do it. Not with precision, not with stones that size, not without powered tools. Even with diamond-tipped saws and laser levels, modern crews can't achieve the same tolerances. The ancient builders got closer fits, tighter joints, better seismic performance, with copper tools and stone hammers, according to official history. But copper is soft, stone hammers shatter. You can't cut andesite with copper. You can't shape diorite with stone. It's physically impossible. Yet the walls exist. You can walk up, touch them, feel where 200-ton stones meet with zero gap. No amount of time makes soft metal cut hard stone. It's not about effort, it's about physics. So what cut the stones? Here's something nobody likes talking about. The Cochno stone in Scotland. Carved rock slab, 90 feet long, 60 feet wide. Covered in cup and ring marks, spirals, grooves. Dated to 3000 BC. 5,000 years old. But the carvings show astronomical knowledge. Solar alignments, lunar phases, star positions. Calculations that require centuries of observation. In 3000 BC, Scotland was supposedly inhabited by primitive farmers, Stone Age tribes. No writing, no mathematics, no astronomy. Yet the Cochno stone maps the heavens. The carvings match other megalithic sites, Newgrange in Ireland, Knowth, Loch Rue, all showing similar symbols, similar astronomical alignments, like there was a shared knowledge system. A common understanding of celestial mechanics across thousands of miles, but no written language, no tablets, no records. Knowledge passed down orally for thousands of years, without degradation, without loss. That's almost harder to believe than the stones themselves. Oral traditions degrade. Facts become myths. Measurements become metaphors. Precision becomes poetry. Yet megalithic sites across Europe show identical astronomical understanding. Same alignments, same calculations, same cup and ring symbology. Either independent discovery, dozens of cultures figuring out the same advanced astronomy, or shared knowledge from a common source. A source that predates all of them. Let's go back underwater, because the ocean hides everything. The Bimini Road in the Bahamas, discovered in 1968 by a pilot flying overhead. Underwater stone formation, straight line, half a mile long, rectangular blocks, each one 10 to 15 feet long,
arranged in perfect linear alignment, submerged in 20 feet of water. Geologists say it's natural beach rock, limestone formation. Erosion created the rectangular shapes. Tidal action arranged them in a line. But beach rock doesn't form in straight lines for half a mile, doesn't create uniform block sizes, doesn't stack in layers. Archaeologist William Donato dove the site repeatedly, found tool marks, found right angles, found what appear to be anchor stones, multi-ton blocks positioned at regular intervals, carbon dating of mangrove roots growing between blocks, 12,000 years old, meaning the structure is older than that, was already there when the mangroves started growing. 12,000 years ago, sea levels were lower, much lower. The Bahamas shelf was above water, dry land, habitable, and someone built a road, or a harbor, or a foundation. Hard to tell when it's been underwater for 10 millennia. Edgar Cayce, the famous psychic, predicted in 1940 that remnants of Atlantis would be found near Bimini in 1968 or 1969. The Bimini Road was discovered in 1968. Coincidence? Probably. Psychics predict lots of things. Most don't come true. But it makes you wonder. Not about Atlantis, about coastlines, about how much we've lost to the ocean, about civilizations that built on shores that no longer exist. 400 feet of sea level rise wipes out everything coastal, every port, every harbor, every seaside city. And humans love coastlines, always have. Fresh water, fish, trade routes. Most ancient cities are coastal. But where are the ancient coastal cities from 12,000 years ago? Under 400 feet of water. Here's the thing that keeps me up at night. We have 15 unexplained finds. Could list 100 more, thousands if you dig deep. Artifacts that don't fit. Structures that shouldn't exist.
knowledge that appears too early. And the response from mainstream archaeology is always the same. Coincidence, natural formation, misidentified, misdated, misunderstood. But at what point do you have too many coincidences? At what point does unexplained become deliberately ignored? The Antikythera mechanism sat in a museum for 50 years before anyone took it seriously. The Long U caves were dismissed as natural until tourist money made ignoring them impossible. The Baghdad battery is still called not a battery, despite functioning as a battery. There's a pattern here, not in the artifacts, in the response to the artifacts. When something doesn't fit the timeline, it gets explained away, set aside, stored, not displayed. Why? Because timelines are rigid. History is settled. Textbooks are printed. Careers are built on consensus. Changing the timeline means rewriting books, revising theories, admitting ignorance. Easier to call it coincidence. But here's what nobody wants to say out loud. What if the timeline is wrong? What if civilization is older than we think? What if knowledge was lost and found and lost again multiple times? What if the Dark Ages weren't just medieval Europe? What if humanity has experienced multiple Dark Ages, multiple collapses, multiple restarts? Ice ages lasted 100,000 years. Homo sapiens has been around for 300,000 years. We have written records for 5,000. What happened in the other 295,000? We assume nothing. We assume our ancestors hunted, gathered, survived,
made stone tools, lived in caves. But we have 15 objects that say otherwise, and those are just the ones we've found. Most of human history is underwater, buried, lost, recycled, melted down, repurposed. We're excavating fragments, finding pieces, building theories from scraps. But what if the scraps are telling us something we don't want to hear?
Let me tell you about one more find. Then we'll get to the really disturbing part. The Klerksdorp spheres, found in South Africa. Pyrophyllite mineral deposits, perfectly spherical metallic objects. 3 parallel grooves around the equator. Age of the rock they're found in? 3 billion years old. 3 billion. That predates complex life, predates oxygen atmosphere, predates everything except bacteria. Geologists say they're natural. Limonite concretions, mineral formations, coincidental symmetry. But metallurgical analysis shows they're composed of nickel-steel alloy, a mixture that doesn't occur naturally, requires smelting, requires industrial processes. And those 3 grooves, perfectly parallel, perfectly spaced, same depth all the way around. Natural formation doesn't create parallel grooves. Rolf Marx, curator of the Klerksdorp Museum, had one tested, taken to NASA, examined by materials engineers. Their conclusion? Manufactured. But the age of the rock formation makes that impossible. So they're filed under geological curiosity. No further investigation. No explanation. Just stored. Because 3 billion-year-old manufactured objects can't exist, therefore they don't exist, despite existing. That's the logic. If it contradicts the timeline, ignore it. But here's where it gets really strange. All 15 of these finds share common features: precision engineering, astronomical knowledge, advanced mathematics, metallurgy, stonework beyond modern capability, and no instruction manuals, no schools, no training centers, no progression from simple to complex, just perfect execution. Like someone skipped all the developmental stages, went straight from stone tools to computational devices, from wooden shelters to megalithic structures. No learning curve. That's not how technology works. You iterate, you fail, you improve, you build on previous knowledge. But these objects show no iteration, no prototypes. No failed attempts, just perfection. Or, what if they're not the beginning? What if they're the end? What if they're the last remnants of something much larger? The fragments that survived when everything else was lost. Think about it. If our civilization collapsed tomorrow, if everything stopped, if we had 1,000 years of Dark Age, what would survive? The Hoover Dam might last, some concrete structures, maybe some stainless steel objects, gold, stone monuments. Everything else, gone. Computers corrode, books decay, plastic breaks down, knowledge disappears. In 1,000 years, survivors would find fragments, massive concrete structures with no explanation, stainless steel objects they couldn't reproduce, stone monuments they couldn't move. They'd call them impossible, mystery, ancient alien technology. But it would just be us, forgotten. What if that's already happened? What if Göbekli Tepe isn't the beginning of civilization? What if it's the end of one we've forgotten? What if the Antikythera mechanism isn't revolutionary technology? What if it's degraded technology? The last gasp of knowledge fading away? What if the Baghdad battery isn't advanced ancient science?
What if it's basic ancient science that survived when everything more complex was lost? That would explain the pattern. No progression, no development. Just isolated pockets of knowledge, fragments, echoes, remnants of something bigger that we can't see anymore. And here's the thing that makes my skin crawl. If that's true, then history isn't linear, doesn't progress smoothly from primitive to advanced. Instead, it cycles, rises, falls, rises again. Civilizations build, reach heights, collapse, get forgotten. New civilizations emerge, find the ruins, can't explain them, call them gods, call them aliens, call them impossible. Build on top, repurpose, claim, until they collapse too, and the next civilization finds their ruins and starts the cycle again.
We might not be the first advanced civilization, might not even be the second, could be the 5th, the 10th, the 100th, and every previous one left fragments, artifacts we can't explain, technology we can't replicate, knowledge we can't access. Not because aliens helped them, but because they figured it out, reached heights, then fell, and the knowledge died with them. Happened to Rome. They had concrete that lasted 2,000 years, self-healing, stronger than modern concrete. Used volcanic ash, specific mixture, perfect chemistry. We only figured out the recipe in 2023, 2,000 years later. The knowledge was lost, had to be rediscovered. What else was lost? What else are we rediscovering? What else are we calling impossible when it's just forgotten? Now, here's where I need you to pay very close attention, because there's one artifact I haven't mentioned yet. One find that connects all the others. One object that suggests the timeline isn't just wrong. It suggests we're looking at this backwards. The artifact was found in 1901, same year as the Antikythera mechanism, same region. But it's been kept quiet, stored, not displayed. Not because it's fake, not because it's unimportant, because it has writing on it. Writing that predates every known written language by thousands of years. And the writing is a formula, a mathematical formula carved into bronze, using symbols that don't appear in any ancient language, describing a process that requires understanding of chemistry we didn't have until the 1900s. The object itself is small, could hold it in your hand, corroded, green, looks like nothing. But when cleaned, when translated, when understood, it explains how they did it, how they moved the stones, how they cut the granite, how they achieved the precision. Not with alien technology, not with lost continents, with chemistry, with physics, with knowledge we've only recently relearned. The formula has been tested. It works. And if it works, then everything changes. Because this small bronze object with its impossible formula means someone, somewhere, over 2,000 years ago, had knowledge equivalent to modern industrial chemistry. And if they had that, what else did they have? The object is called the Mechanism Fragment 7, stored in the National Archaeological Museum in Athens, catalog number X15412. Bronze disc, 4 inches diameter, corroded surface, green patina. Nobody looked at it closely until 2003. Dr. Maria Xenakis was cataloging items from the Antikythera shipwreck, going through storage boxes, photographing fragments, standard archival work. Fragment 7 was in a box with pottery shards, mislabeled, filed wrong.
sitting there for 102 years. She almost put it back, but the weight felt wrong, too heavy for its size. Bronze oxidizes, gets lighter. This felt dense, solid.
She took it to the lab, X-rayed it. The interior showed symbols.
Not Greek, not Latin, not Phoenician. Nothing in the database matched. And running through the center, a chemical formula. Xenakis spent 6 months trying to decode it. Brought in linguists, mathematicians, chemists. Everyone hit walls. Then she showed it to Dr. Robert Schoch, the geologist, the one who dated the Sphinx water erosion, the one who dove Yonaguni. Schoch looked at it for 3 minutes, went pale. He recognized one symbol, a spiral with 3 dots. Appears on exactly 4 other objects worldwide. One in Peru, one in Egypt, one in China, one in Turkey. All dated differently, all from different cultures, all showing the same symbol, a spiral with 3 dots. Schoch said, "This isn't a language. It's a technical diagram." The formula describes a process, step by step, mixing ratios, temperature ranges, time sequences. It's instructions for creating a liquid that softens stone. Not melts it, softens it.
Makes it pliable, like clay, for approximately 6 hours. Then it rehardens, stronger than before, denser, more resistant to erosion. The formula uses plants, specific plants, extinct now, but identifiable by genus. Roots from a tree similar to acacia. Sap from a succulent related to aloe. Seeds from a grass species. Combined with naturally occurring acids. Fermented. Heated to precise temperature. Held for exact duration. Result: a compound that breaks down crystalline bonds in limestone and granite, temporarily, reversibly. Dr. Xenakis tested it. Took 2 years to find plant substitutes, modern equivalents. Trial and error. In 2008, she succeeded. Poured the liquid on a granite sample, waited 30 minutes. The surface became soft, moldable. She pressed her thumb into it, left an indent. 6 hours later, hard as granite. Because it was granite. Just rearranged, compressed, denser. She published quietly, small academic journal, minimal circulation. The paper got 17 citations, then disappeared from databases. Her funding was cut, lab closed. She moved to private practice, stopped researching. I found her paper through a Russian archive, cached copy. The original is gone, scrubbed from academic records. But the formula exists. Fragment 7 exists. You can request to see it. Catalog number X15412. They'll tell you it's in restoration. Been in restoration since 2009. 15 years. Funny how that works. But let's say the formula is real. Let's say it works. Suddenly everything makes sense. Baalbek stones? Pour the liquid on quarry walls, wait 30 minutes. Carve out 800-ton blocks like butter. Let them harden during transport. No special tools needed, just chemistry. Pumapunku H blocks? Soften the andesite, mold it to exact specifications. Press blocks together while soft, perfect fit. Let harden, inseparable joint. Saksewaman walls? Same process. Irregular shapes because you're molding, not cutting. Custom fit because stone is pliable. Earthquake-proof because molecular bonds reform stronger. The Great Pyramid? 2.3 million blocks, each weighing 2.5 tons, built in 20 years. Math says impossible. Requires setting one block every 5 minutes. 24 hours a day, for 20 years straight. No breaks, no mistakes, no delays. But if you can soften stone, you're not lifting blocks. You're pouring them, like concrete. Mold in place, let harden, move to next block. Suddenly, 20 years is generous. Could build it faster. And no tool marks because you didn't cut, you molded. And no mortar because molecular bonds fused during hardening. And precision fits because you pressed stones together while soft. Everything unexplained becomes explained. One formula, one lost technique, one chemical process that got forgotten. But here's what keeps me awake. If they had this formula, what else did they have?
Because you don't discover advanced chemistry by accident. You don't stumble into plant-based, stone-softening compounds while hunting deer. You need infrastructure, labs, testing, record-keeping, generational knowledge transfer. You need a civilization. Not scattered tribes, not primitive farmers. A society with resources, education, specialization. Someone spent decades testing plants. Someone else recorded results. Someone synthesized the findings. Someone else scaled production. That's not ancient. That's modern thinking, modern organization. But it happened over 2,000 years ago, minimum. Fragment 7 was in a shipwreck dated to 65 BC. The ship was already carrying ancient cargo. The mechanism was old when it sank. Fragment 7, even older. Could be 3,000 years old, 4,000, maybe older. We don't know because we can't carbon date bronze, can only date the wood it was found with. And that wood is Roman era. Doesn't mean the bronze is Roman era. Just means Romans had it. Same problem everywhere. Later cultures using earlier technology, repurposing, copying, claiming. But somewhere, someone invented it first, and then they vanished. Let me show you something that connects. The Copper Scroll, found in Qumran Cave 3 in 1952, part of the Dead Sea Scrolls collection, but different. Not written on parchment, engraved on copper, rolled up, oxidized shut. Took 4 years to safely open. Inside, a list. 64 locations. Buried treasures, gold, silver, sacred vessels, scrolls. Hidden before the Roman destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD. Total estimated value in modern terms, over $1 billion in precious metals. But here's the strange part. The scroll mentions substances, chemical compounds, using terminology that doesn't appear in any other ancient text.
One entry translates roughly as, "In the stone softening chamber beneath the eastern wall, sealed vessels containing the white earth that makes stone flow." White earth that makes stone flow. The Copper Scroll is describing the formula, or something related to it, a substance that affects stone, stored in sealed vessels, hidden. John Marco Allegro, the British archaeologist who translated the scroll, spent 20 years searching for the treasures, never found them. Died in 1988 convinced they were real, but inaccessible. He wrote in his journal, never published, that the stone softening chamber references appeared in 3 separate locations on the scroll, each time with the same phrase, each time describing sealed vessels, like it was valuable, worth hiding, worth recording carefully. Chemical knowledge preserved during a siege when everything else was being destroyed. Someone thought, we must save this. This matters. What happened to those sealed vessels? Were they found and not recognized? Were they destroyed? Are they still buried somewhere under Jerusalem? We don't know, but the reference exists, in copper, engraved carefully, preserved for 2,000 years. Someone knew about stone softening compounds, and they knew it was worth hiding. Now let's talk about South America, because the same symbols appear there. Marcahuasi's stone forest in Peru, 10,667 feet elevation, plateau covered with rocks, but not ordinary rocks. Faces, hundreds of them, carved into stone. Humanoid faces, animal faces, some recognizable, some alien. Official explanation: pareidolia. Human brain sees faces in random patterns. Shadows create illusions. Natural erosion. But Dr. Daniel Russo spent 47 years studying Marcahuasi. Died in 1991. Left behind 60,000 photographs, detailed measurements, analysis. His conclusion: carved, intentionally, using technique that works with light angles.
Faces only visible at certain times of day, certain times of year, specific solar alignments. That's not erosion. That's astronomy. And on 17 of the rocks, symbols. Carved shallow, weathered, easy to miss. One symbol appears 4 times. A spiral with 3 dots. Same symbol as fragment 7. Same as the Egyptian artifact. Same as the Chinese carving. Same as Göbekli Tepe. Russo documented it, photographed it, measured it, published in obscure journals. Nobody paid attention. Because if the symbol is intentional, if it's the same across continents, then you have to explain how. How does the same technical symbol appear in Peru, Egypt, China, Greece, and Turkey? Cultures separated by thousands of miles, no contact, different languages, different eras. Either mass coincidence or shared source. And nobody wants to say shared source, because that implies a parent civilization. An older culture that spread knowledge, seeded multiple regions. That's not in the textbook. So it's ignored. But the symbols exist. You can hike to Marcahuasi, see them yourself, touch them, photograph them. They're real. Here's where it gets darker. Dr. Xenakis wasn't the first to rediscover the formula. She was the third. First was a French chemist in 1893 named Auguste Laurent, working in Cairo, studying Egyptian stonework. Found references in Coptic manuscripts to water that makes stone soft. He tested compounds, used local plants, replicated something close, documented results, sent samples to Paris. His lab burned down 3 weeks later. All research destroyed. Laurent died in the fire, ruled accidental. No samples survived, no notes, no formulas. Just a mention in a colleague's letter describing Laurent's remarkable breakthrough in understanding ancient Egyptian construction. Then, nothing. Second was a German engineer in 1936, Klaus Dobereiner, working on Autobahn construction, noticed Roman roads had unusual density. Stone harder than surrounding bedrock. He analyzed samples, found chemical residue, plant-based compounds, reverse-engineered a mixture, tested it on limestone. It worked. Stone became soft. He could mold it. It rehardened denser. He wrote a report, submitted to the Reich Ministry, classified immediately. Dobereiner reassigned to weapons development. Died in 1944 during an Allied bombing raid. His papers were seized by the Soviets, taken to Moscow, filed in secret archives, released partially in 1991 during declassification. Most pages missing, formulas redacted. Only descriptions remain. Enough to know what he discovered, not enough to replicate it. Then, Xenakis, 2008, published, Funding cut. Research ended. 3 people, 3 separate discoveries, 3 shutdowns. Pattern? Let me tell you what happened to Fragment 7 after Xenakis published. Museum records show it was moved to secure storage in 2009.
Climate-controlled vault, restricted access. I filed a request to see it. Academic purposes, proper credentials. 3-month wait. Request denied. Reason given, item undergoing conservation treatment. I asked for timeline. When would it be available? Response, indefinite. Treatment requires specialized techniques. I contacted Dr. Xenakis, asked if she could intervene. She laughed. Not humor, bitterness. She said, "They'll never let anyone see it again. I made a mistake publishing. Should have kept quiet." I asked what she meant. She said, "You don't publish formulas that make billion-dollar construction projects obsolete. You don't reveal techniques that could revolutionize engineering, not when current methods are profitable." Then she said something that made my blood cold. 3 colleagues who reviewed my paper died within 2 years. Heart attacks, car accidents, stroke, all under 60, all healthy. She paused. I'm 68, still alive. Know why? Because I stopped researching, stopped talking about it, stayed quiet. Another pause. You should too. She hung up. But here's the thing. The formula isn't the biggest secret. Fragment 7 has writing on both sides. Xenakis published the formula from side 1, the chemical process, the stone softening technique. She never published side 2. I know because I found her original research notes. Not the published paper, the raw documentation. Leaked by someone anonymous, sent to me through encrypted email. No return address. Side 2 contains coordinates, longitude and latitude, carved in base 60 notation. Sumerian numbering system, precise to 6 decimal places. Modern GPS accurate to 6 decimal places. Ancient coordinates shouldn't be, but they are. The coordinates point to a location in Antarctica, specifically the Trans-Antarctic Mountains, elevation approximately 9,000 feet, beneath 2 miles of ice. Currently inaccessible. Has been frozen for at least 6,000 years, maybe longer. Why would a 2,000-year-old bronze fragment contain precise GPS coordinates to a location under Antarctic ice? Xenakis didn't know, didn't publish, probably didn't understand the significance. But I cross-referenced, checked other artifacts with similar symbols. The Piri Reis map shows the same region, pre-ice coastline, mountains visible, detailed topography. The map has annotations, Turkish script, notes from Piri Reis explaining his sources. One note translated. In this region, the ancients built their final sanctuary, hidden from the flood, preserved beneath ice. Final sanctuary. Ground-penetrating radar surveys of Antarctica were conducted in 2010 through 2015. Ice-penetrating satellite imaging, mapping subglacial topography. Results partially released, mostly geological data. Bedrock formations, subglacial lakes. But one survey report was classified. Conducted by joint U.S.-Russian expedition. Targeted the Trans-Antarctic Mountains, exact region matching Fragment 7 coordinates. The report leaked in 2019, partial document, 30 pages of 200. Page 17 contains radar imaging of a geometric anomaly beneath 1.8 miles of ice.
Dimensions: approximately 3 miles long, 2 miles wide, half-mile tall. Shape: pyramidal, four-sided, precise angles. Report notes: anomaly shows non-natural geometry. Recommend further investigation. Page 18. Investigation suspended pending intergovernmental review. Site designated off-limits under Antarctic Treaty Article 9. That's where the document ends. Article 9 of the Antarctic Treaty prohibits military activity, nuclear testing, territorial claims, allows scientific research, unless something is designated of international concern requiring unanimous approval, which means all treaty nations have to agree before anyone investigates.
Which means if one nation objects, nobody investigates. Convenient. But here's what really happened, and I can prove this. In 2021, during COVID lockdowns when nobody was watching, an expedition went to those coordinates. Private funding, not governmental. Corporate. 3 research vessels, ice drilling equipment, ground-penetrating radar, full scientific team. Officially, climate research. They spent 4 months on site, January through April, Antarctic summer. Best drilling conditions. Then they left. Suddenly. No explanation. Equipment abandoned. Vessels returned to Chile. Team dispersed. No official report, no published data, no findings. But one crew member talked, anonymously, posted on a forum, then deleted the post, but I archived it. He said they drilled through 1.7 miles of ice, hit something solid, not bedrock, smooth. Metallic resonance on sonar, flat surface extending beyond drill site. They used thermal lances, cut through. Broke into a chamber. Air inside, breathable. Temperature, 68 degrees Fahrenheit, despite being under nearly 2 miles of ice. The chamber had walls, carved symbols, spirals with 3 dots everywhere. And in the center, a pool. Liquid, not water, thicker, greenish, luminescent. They took samples, sealed containers, brought them back to the surface. Then the order came: shut it down, seal the hole, leave immediately. All samples confiscated. The crew member said, "We found something that's been waiting, and whoever funded the expedition didn't want the world to know." He posted that 3 years ago. I tried to contact him. Username inactive, email bounced, no trace. So let's connect this, all of it. Fragment 7, formula for stone softening compound. Coordinates to Antarctica. Piri-Reis map shows Antarctica ice-free, mentions final sanctuary. Copper scroll describes hidden chambers with stone softening substances. Markahuasi, Göbekli Tepe, Egypt, China. Same symbols. Same spiral with 3 dots. Baalbek, Pumapunku, Sacsayhuaman. Impossible stonework. No tool marks. Perfect fits. And now, a geometric structure under Antarctic ice. Warm chamber, luminescent liquid, sealed for 6,000 years minimum. What if they're connected? What if the spiral symbol is a marker? A sign saying, this knowledge came from the same source? What if Fragment 7 isn't just giving us a formula? What if it's giving us a location? A destination? What if the ancients who built Göbekli Tepe and the pyramids and Pumapunku all drew from the same well? A central repository of knowledge. A sanctuary. And what if that sanctuary is still there, under Antarctic ice, preserved, waiting? Here's the truly disturbing part. Every major power knows about this. Has to. Because the Antarctic Treaty wasn't created to protect penguins. It was created in 1959, height of Cold War. US
and the Soviet Union couldn't agree on anything, literally fighting proxy wars across the globe. But they agreed on Antarctica, signed a treaty, prohibited military activity, prohibited territorial claims, made the entire continent neutral ground. Why? Official reason: scientific cooperation, preserve pristine environment, international collaboration. Real reason? Someone found something. Something big enough that both superpowers agreed to lock down the entire continent, keep everyone out unless supervised, control all research, monitor all expeditions. The treaty has been signed by 54 nations, covers the entire continent, enforced by mutual oversight. Nobody drills deep without approval. Nobody explores restricted zones. Nobody publishes findings without review. And certain coordinates are permanently off-limits, including the Trans-Antarctic Mountains region matching Fragment 7. That's not environmental protection. That's containment. I started researching Fragment 7 18 months ago. Simple academic curiosity, unusual artifact, interesting symbols. Then I found Xenakis' work. Then the Copper Scroll connection. Then the Antarctic coordinates. Then the leaked drilling report. Each discovery led to another. Each answer raised bigger questions. And each time I got close to something significant, obstacles appeared. Archives temporarily closed, database access revoked, contacts stopped responding, emails bounced. Nothing overt, nothing you could prove, just friction, delays, dead ends. 3 weeks ago, my university reassigned me. Different department, different focus. My research materials were archived for cataloging, still waiting to get them back. Yesterday, I received an email, anonymous sender, encrypted, single sentence. Stop asking about Fragment 7. No threat, no explanation, just a warning, which tells me I'm onto something. Because if I was chasing nonsense, nobody would care. Crazy theories are everywhere. Nobody bothers silencing them, but silence someone, and you confirm they're close to truth. So, here's where we are. We have a formula that softens stone. Tested, verified, works. We have symbols appearing globally, same design, different continents, different eras, connecting ancient sites. We have coordinates pointing to Antarctica, to a structure under ice, geometric, non-natural, containing warm chambers and unknown liquids. We have a pattern of suppression, researchers shut down, funding cut, expeditions halted, information classified. And we have a question nobody wants to answer. What's under that ice? What's in that chamber? What's in that luminescent pool that glows green despite being frozen in darkness for 6,000 years? Because whatever it is, it's important enough to classify, important enough to guard, important enough to write into international treaties, important enough to kill for. 3 researchers dead. Auguste Lohon,
Klaus Derbereiner, Xenakis' colleagues, all found the formula. All died shortly after. Xenakis survived by staying quiet, by stopping research, by disappearing into private practice. Smart woman. But the formula still exists. Fragment 7 still exists. The coordinates still point to Antarctica, and that structure is still there, under the ice, waiting. Now, here's what I haven't told you yet. The leaked drilling report, the one from 2021. It had an appendix, partially redacted, mostly blacked out. But one paragraph remained visible. It described what they found in the chamber before they were ordered to leave. Not just symbols, not just the pool, something else. Stacked along the walls, metal containers, dozens of them, sealed, intact, covered in the same spiral dot symbols. Each container approximately 2 feet tall, cylindrical, made from unknown alloy. Not bronze, not steel. Something that doesn't corrode, doesn't oxidize.
Remains perfect after 6 millennia under ice. They opened one container, against protocol. Curiosity overwhelming caution. Inside, scrolls. Not parchment, not papyrus. Material similar to metal foil. Thin, flexible, covered in symbols. The same symbols as Fragment 7. The same base 60 notation. The same technical diagrams. They photographed 3 scrolls before the shutdown order came. Cameras were confiscated, but one team member had a backup, personal phone, hidden. He leaked 2 photographs, low resolution, partial images, but enough. The scrolls contained formulas, dozens of them, chemical processes, mathematical equations, engineering diagrams. One photograph shows a diagram of what appears to be an energy generation system. Symbols indicating water flow, crystalline structures, electrical output. No moving parts, no combustion. Another shows biological diagrams, human anatomy, but with annotations, modifications, enhancements. Genetic sequences written in base 4 notation.
DNA, before we discovered DNA. This isn't just lost knowledge. This is advanced knowledge. Knowledge we're only now beginning to understand. And it's been sitting under Antarctic ice for over 6,000 years. The crew member who leaked the photos? His post was deleted within hours. His account terminated. No trace. But I saved the images, analyzed them, cross-referenced symbols with Fragment 7, with the copper scroll, with Marcahuasi carvings. Perfect match. Same notation, same symbolic language, same technical precision. Which means Fragment 7 isn't unique, isn't the only surviving piece. It's part of a library, a collection, an archive. And that archive is in Antarctica, in that chamber, in those sealed containers, waiting to be found, or waiting to stay hidden, depending on who gets there first. Here's the question that keeps me awake. If this knowledge existed 6,000 years ago, who created it? Who had the capability to understand genetics, energy generation, advanced chemistry, and precise engineering? Official history says, nobody. Civilization began 5,000 years ago. Before that, primitive cultures, hunters, gatherers, stone tools. But the evidence says different. Says someone had laboratories, had education systems, had generational knowledge transfer, had writing, had technology. And then it ended, rapidly, catastrophically, completely. Ice core samples from Antarctica show rapid climate shift around 10,800 years ago. Temperature drop, ice expansion. The event lasted 1,200 years, called the Younger Dryas. Most megafauna died: woolly mammoths, saber-toothed cats, giant sloths. 35 genera extinct within 1,000 years. And if animals that survived millions of years of evolution suddenly died, what happened to humans? Not all humans. Obviously, some survived. we're here. But which humans survived?
The ones living in coastal cities with libraries and laboratories, or the ones living in mountains and forests with stone tools? Coastal cities are underwater now, 400 feet down, buried under sediment, under continental shelves. Mountain caves are accessible. We find stone tools, primitive art, bones, remnants of survival. So we assume that's all there was, because that's all we find. But we're not looking 400 feet underwater, not systematically, not comprehensively. We're looking where it's easy to look, finding what survives in accessible places, building theories from fragments. But the fragments might be misleading, might be showing us the survivors, not the civilization, the refugees, not the culture. What if the younger Dryas didn't just kill animals? What if it killed civilization? Drowned cities, froze knowledge centers, scattered populations. And the survivors rebuilt from memory, passed down stories, created myths, built monuments to remember what was lost. Göbekli Tepe, a memorial, not a beginning, an ending, a reminder. The pyramids, not tombs, archives, markers. Here lies knowledge, here lies what we were. Pumapunku, same. Sacsayhuaman, same. Baalbek, same. All built by survivors trying to preserve something, trying to remember, trying to pass it down. But each generation the knowledge faded. Details became mythology. Techniques became legends. Precision became mystery. Until we forgot entirely and called our ancestors primitive. But someone knew. Someone preserved the real knowledge, not in monuments that weather and erode, in archives, underground, under ice, protected. The Antarctic Sanctuary, the final repository, sealed before the ice came, waiting for the ice to leave. Except the ice hasn't left, and we found it anyway, drilled down, broke in. And now what? Because this isn't academic anymore. This isn't about history or archaeology. This is about what we do with knowledge that powerful. Stone softening formulas revolutionize construction. Billion-dollar industries obsolete overnight. Energy generation without combustion. No fuel needed. No emissions. Petroleum industry collapses. Genetic modifications. Human enhancements. Medical breakthroughs. Ethical nightmares. That knowledge can save us or destroy us, depending on who controls it. And right now, nobody controls it. It's locked under ice, under treaty, under international agreement that prevents any single nation from accessing it. But treaties are paper. Agreements are fragile. And desperation makes people reckless. What happens when water shortages become critical? When energy crises escalate? When nations decide they need that knowledge more than they need cooperation? What happens when someone decides to take it? The 2021 expedition was private, corporate funded. That means someone outside governmental control is interested. Someone with resources. Someone willing to bypass official channels. And if they got in once, they'll try again, better prepared, better equipped, with extraction plans, not just research. Those sealed containers are portable, could be removed, smuggled out, analyzed in private labs, knowledge reverse-engineered without oversight. And once that happens, the race begins. Because knowledge spreads, leaks, gets stolen, sold, copied. Within a decade, every major power has access. Within 2 decades, rogue states have it.
Within 3, terrorist organizations. Stone-softening compounds become weapons, melt foundations of buildings, collapse infrastructure. Undetectable until activated. Energy systems become bombs. Genetic modifications become bioweapons. Knowledge becomes leverage. Leverage becomes war. That's the nightmare scenario. That's why the treaty exists. That's why it's classified. That's why researchers are silenced. Not to hide history, to prevent catastrophe. But here's the deeper problem. If we don't learn from it, we repeat it.
Whatever destroyed the previous civilization, whatever caused the Younger Dryas collapse, whatever forced knowledge into sealed containers under ice, that could happen again. Climate shifts, asteroid impacts, magnetic pole reversals, solar flares. Any of them could reset civilization, wipe out infrastructure, kill billions. And if it happens, what survives? Not data centers, not libraries, not universities. Those require power, maintenance, stable climate. What survives are mountains, caves, stone monuments, and sealed archives in places like Antarctica. Which means the ancients knew collapse was possible, maybe inevitable. So they prepared, created backups, physical backups, endurable materials, in protected locations. Fragment 7 isn't just giving us a formula, it's giving us an instruction manual, a fail-safe, a break glass in case of emergency archive. And we found it. But we're not in emergency yet. We're still comfortable, still assuming stability continues forever.
So we classify it, lock it away, pretend it doesn't exist, tell ourselves we'll deal with it later. But what if later is too late? What if the next Younger Dryas event happens tomorrow, and we've sealed away the knowledge that could help us survive? That's the paradox. The knowledge is dangerous, so we hide it. But hiding it makes us vulnerable. So we're damned either way. Unless we're mature enough to handle it, wise enough to use it responsibly, united enough to share it without weaponizing it. But look at the world. Look at how we handle current technology. Social media, artificial intelligence, nuclear power. We weaponize everything, monetize everything, politicize everything. Can we be trusted with knowledge that makes stone soft, energy limitless, genetics malleable? Honest answer? I don't know. And neither does anyone else. Which is why Fragment 7 is in restoration. Why Antarctic coordinates are restricted. Why researchers are warned to stop asking questions. Because the decision is too big, too heavy, too permanent. Open the archive, and everything changes. Keep it sealed, and we risk losing it when we need it most. There's no good option, only less bad options, and nobody wants to make that call. So it sits, under ice, under guard, under international treaty, waiting. But here's the thing about waiting. It doesn't last forever. Ice melts, treaties expire, guards get bribed, secrets leak. Eventually, someone will make the decision. Someone will access that archive. Someone will unlock those containers and release that knowledge. Maybe it'll be official, sanctioned, controlled, released slowly under supervision. Or maybe it'll be a leak, a hack, a theft, released chaotically without context. Either way, it's coming. Because secrets this big don't stay hidden. History proves it. Every classified document eventually gets declassified. Every hidden archive eventually gets found. The only question is, When? And by whom? And what will they do with it? 3 days ago, I received another email. Same anonymous sender, same encryption. This time, not a warning, an offer. We know you have Xenakis' notes. We know you have the coordinates. We're going back. Do you want to come? No signature, no details, just a date. 6 months from now. And GPS, coordinates for a meeting point in Chile. I haven't responded, haven't decided. Because going means crossing a line, means violating the Antarctic Treaty, means participating in what's essentially theft of international heritage. But staying means abandoning the biggest discovery in human history, means letting someone else control the narrative, means trusting that whoever goes has good intentions. And I don't trust easily anymore. So I'm stuck, paralyzed, knowing something enormous is about to happen, unable to stop it, unable to join it, unable to ignore it. And you're stuck with me, because you've watched this far, because you know what I know. Because now you're part of it too. So here's the question I'm leaving you with. If you had the coordinates, if you had the chance, if you could access an archive containing knowledge that could revolutionize everything, or destroy everything, would you go? Would you open those containers? Would you release that knowledge? Or would you leave it sealed, under ice, in the dark, waiting for someone else to make the decision? Think carefully, because this isn't theoretical anymore. In 6 months, someone is going to that chamber. Someone is going to open those containers. Someone is going to photograph those scrolls. And once they do, the images will spread. The formulas will leak. The knowledge will escape. And nothing will ever be the same. The clock is ticking. And under 2 miles of Antarctic ice, something is waiting. Something that's been waiting for 6,000 years. Something that might save us. Or something that might end us. We're about to find out which. I didn't reply to that email for 72 hours. Sat at my desk, stared at the screen, cursor blinking in the empty reply field. 6 months. Chile. Coordinates to a boat that would take me to Antarctica, to the chamber, to the archive, to knowledge that could change everything, or end everything. My hand hovered over the keyboard, started typing 3 times, deleted it 3 times. Then I remembered something Dr. Xenakis said, something I didn't include earlier because I didn't understand it then. She said, "The formula isn't the secret. The coordinates aren't the secret. The real secret is why they hid it." I asked what she meant. She said, "They didn't hide knowledge to keep it from us. They hid it to protect us from ourselves." She paused. "Because they already knew what happens when humans get knowledge they're not ready for. They knew, because they'd done it before." Let me show you what I found in Xenakis' complete notes. The parts she never published. The parts that got her funding cut and her colleagues killed. Fragment 7 has a third side, a rim, edge of the disc. Writing so small you need magnification to see it. She photographed it, enhanced it, translated it. It's a warning. Written in the same base 60 notation, same technical language. But the content isn't formulas, isn't coordinates. It's a historical record, compressed, abbreviated, like a data log. The translation is rough. Xenakis wasn't certain of every word, but the meaning is clear. Quote, "Cycle 4,
Peak reached year 9,200. Population 800 million. Energy unlimited. Lifespan extended. Knowledge comprehensive. Hubris absolute. Year 9,300. First weapons. Molecular disassembly. Continental reshaping. Atmosphere manipulation. Year 9,350. First war. Northern kingdoms versus Southern alliance. 60 million dead. 3 cities erased.
1 ocean poisoned. Year 9,375. Second war. All nations, all weapons. No restraint. Year 9,380. Atmosphere destabilized. Magnetic field disrupted. Climate cascade initiated. Cannot be stopped. Year 9,385. 90% population loss. All coastal cities submerged. Ice expansion accelerating. Knowledge centers destroyed. Survivors scattered. Year 9,390. Final archive established. Knowledge sealed. Coordinates preserved. Warning inscribed. For the next cycle, learn from our failure. Knowledge without wisdom is extinction. End quote. Read that again, slowly. Cycle 4, not cycle 1, 4th, meaning this happened before, 3 times before. 3 previous civilizations that rose, reached heights, discovered knowledge, weaponized it, destroyed themselves. And each time, survivors hid the knowledge, sealed it, warned the next cycle. But each cycle, the new civilization found the archive, opened it, used the knowledge, repeated the pattern. We're cycle 5, and we're about to make the same mistake. Xenakis understood this. That's why she stopped researching. That's why she went silent. She realized the formula wasn't a gift. It was a test. And we're failing it. Because the first thing we thought when we found stone softening compounds wasn't, this could help construction. It was, this could be weaponized. The first thing governments thought when they found the Antarctic archive wasn't, this could advance science. It was, this could give us military advantage. The warning on Fragment 7 isn't telling us to find the knowledge. It's telling us not to. It's saying, you're not ready. You'll do what we did. You'll destroy yourselves. But we're going anyway. I replied to the email. 2 words. I'm in. Sent it before I could change my mind, before rational thought could override instinct. Because here's the thing. If someone's going to that chamber, if someone's opening those containers, if someone's releasing that knowledge, I want to witness it, document it, understand it. Maybe I can't stop it, but I can record what happens, leave evidence, warn whoever comes after us. Cycle 6. The response came 12 minutes later. Good. January 15th. Punta Arenas. Dock 17. Boat name, Endurance 2. Password, Fragment. Come alone. Endurance 2. Named after Shackleton's ship. The one that got crushed in Antarctic ice in 1915. Entire crew survived against impossible odds. Irony or warning? Couldn't tell. I spent the next 5 months preparing. Not equipment. Not supplies, documentation. Downloaded everything I had. Xenakis' notes, Fragment 7 photographs, Copper Scroll translations, Piri Reis map analysis, leaked drilling reports, Antarctic treaty documents. Backed it up, multiple drives, multiple locations.
cloud storage, physical copies. Distributed to trusted contacts with instructions, if I don't return, publish everything. Because if this goes wrong, if I disappear, if the expedition fails or gets silenced, someone needs to know. Someone needs to continue. The knowledge can't die with me. I also wrote letters, physical letters, pen and paper, sealed envelopes, left with my lawyer. Instructions to open if I'm declared dead or missing for 6 months. One letter to my university, explaining where I went and why. One letter to media contacts, journalists I trust, detailing everything. One letter to my family, apologizing, explaining I had to know, had to see, had to witness the moment humanity either grows up or repeats history. January 14th. I flew to Punta Arenas, southern tip of Chile, last major city before Antarctica. Cold wind, gray sky, smell of ocean salt and diesel fuel. Found a hotel near the docks, cheap room, single bed, window overlooking the harbor. Couldn't sleep. Sat by the window.
Watched boats rocking in the waves. Thought about Shackleton, about his crew, about survival against odds, about whether I'd see home again. At 3 a.m. my phone buzzed. Text from unknown number. Change of plans, Dock 9. Boat name, Resolute. Password unchanged. Destroy this message. I deleted it, packed my bag, checked out before dawn. Walked to Dock 9, wind cutting through my jacket, fingers numb. The Resolute was small, research vessel, maybe 80 feet long. Looked civilian, no markings, no flags, anonymous. A man stood on deck, 50s, weather-worn face, eyes that had seen things. I called up, "Fragment." He nodded, gestured me aboard, didn't speak. Below decks, 6 others, scientists, researchers, ages ranging from 30s to 60s, mix of nationalities, American, Russian, Chinese, German, Brazilian, Israeli. No introductions, no names, just nods. The captain, if that's what he was, addressed us once. Accent unclear. Could have been from anywhere.
We leave in 1 hour. Trip takes 4 days. No communication with shore. No electronic devices active. You see what you see. Document mentally. No photos until we're inside. Understood? Everyone nodded. He continued. If caught, you're tourists. Private expedition. Authorized research. Papers are in order. But if questioned about purpose, you know nothing. Understood? More nods. He looked at each of us, measuring, deciding something. Then, one more thing. Once we're inside, we have 3 hours, no more. Enough time to catalog, photograph, sample. Then we leave. We don't linger. We don't take unnecessary risks. And we don't open anything we can't close. Understood? Silence. Heavy. Everyone understanding the weight of what we were about to do. Then the engine started, and we left port. 4 days at sea. Gray water, gray sky, cold air. Not much talking. Everyone processing, preparing. On day 2, the German researcher, older woman, PhD in ancient languages, broke silence.
Do you think it's real? The archive, Russian physicist responded. The radar images are real. The coordinates are real. Whether what's inside matches the legends, we'll see. American archaeologist, younger, nervous. And if it does? If we find scrolls with advanced knowledge? What then? The Chinese chemist, quiet until now. Then we document, publish. Let the world decide. Brazilian geneticist shook his head. The world doesn't decide. Governments decide. Corporations decide. We're just witnesses. Israeli engineer. Witnesses who could disappear. Let's not forget 3 researchers are dead, others silenced. We're not heroes. We're targets. Silence again. Everyone knowing it was true. I spoke for the first time. Then we make sure we're not the only witnesses. Distribute everything. Multiple sources. Simultaneous release. Too many targets to silence all at once. The German woman smiled. Sad smile. You think they can't silence all of us? I met her eyes. They can try. But they can't silence the truth once it's out. She didn't look convinced. Neither was I. Day 4. Antarctica visible. White horizon. Ice cliffs rising from dark water. We approached from the Ross Sea side, avoided monitored routes, stayed off radar. The captain knew what he was doing. We anchored near an ice shelf, suited up, thermal gear, climbing equipment, portable drilling rig, ground-penetrating radar. The coordinates from Fragment 7 pointed inland, 12 miles from coast. Trans-Antarctic Mountains, elevation 9,200 feet. We used snowmobiles, pulling equipment sleds. 6 hours of driving. White landscape, endless, silent, alien. Then the mountain. Rock face jutting from ice, black stone against white snow. And at the base, an opening. Not natural, carved, square edges, deliberate geometry. Someone had been here before, recently. The ice around the entrance was cut, melted, refrozen, evidence of the 2021 expedition. We set up equipment. Confirmed coordinates. This was it. The location from Fragment 7, the final sanctuary. The entrance descended. Tunnel carved through rock, 45-degree slope, down into darkness. We activated lights, started descending. Temperature rose as we went deeper. Outside, -20 Fahrenheit. At 500 feet depth, 32 degrees, freezing point. At 800 feet, 50 degrees. At 1,000 feet, 68 degrees. Same temperature the leaked report mentioned. The chamber was warm. Geothermal? Artificial? Unknown. We reached the bottom. 90 minutes of descent, 1,300 feet below surface. And then, the chamber. Massive, cathedral-sized, walls carved smooth, ceiling lost in darkness above, and covering every surface, symbols. Spirals with 3 dots, thousands of them, arranged in patterns, mathematical sequences, geometric precision. The Israeli engineers scanned with laser measurement. This chamber is 200 meters long, 80 meters wide, 40 meters tall. Volume, 640,000 cubic meters, all carved from solid bedrock. The American archaeologist knelt, touched the floor. No tool marks, same as Pumapunku, same as Sacsayhuaman. Surface is polished, almost glassy. The German linguist photographed symbols. These aren't decorative. They're text, instructions, warnings. I can translate some. She pointed to a sequence near the entrance. This says, 4th cycle ended in fire. 5th cycle begins in ice. 6th cycle, I can't read the rest. Symbols I don't recognize. The Russian physicist moved to the center of the chamber, where the leaked report mentioned a pool. It was still there, circular, 30 feet diameter, filled with liquid, greenish, luminescent, glowing softly in the darkness. He knelt,
extended a sensor probe. Temperature 68 degrees, pH 7.2, neutral. Conductivity high, contains dissolved metals, some organic compounds.
Nothing matching known biology. The Brazilian geneticist took a sample, sealed vial. We'll analyze later, but this isn't water. Molecular structure is unusual. The Chinese chemist sniffed cautiously, pulled back. Smells like ozone, like electricity, but also botanical, familiar, like the plants in Xenakis' formula. I approached the pool's edge, looked into it. The glow came from within, not reflecting light, producing it. And at the bottom, visible through clear liquid, something geometric, metallic, pulsing faintly. There's something down there. The Russian physicist prepared diving equipment, dry suit, oxygen, tether. The captain objected. We don't know what that is. Don't know if it's safe. We're here to document, not interact. The physicist. We document by investigating. 3-hour window. I'm using it. He descended into the pool, slowly, carefully. The liquid was thicker than water, viscous. He moved through it like syrup. 15 feet down, he reached the object, touched it. The pulsing intensified, light brightened, spreading through the liquid. His voice crackled over comms. It's a device, crystalline structure, about 2 meters across, embedded in the bedrock, warm to touch, vibrating slightly. I think it's generating the heat, powering the chamber. The Israeli engineer, after 6,000 years, still functioning. The physicist, maybe longer. This could have been running for 10,000 years, longer. Energy source unknown, no fuel, no decay, just operating. He photographed it, took measurements, then ascended, emerged from the pool. Liquid rolled off his suit, didn't stick, like it repelled contamination. Whatever that device is, it's keeping this chamber habitable. Temperature controlled, air circulated, preservation maintained. It's a life support system. For what? The American archaeologist pointed across the chamber. For that. Along the walls, the containers. Exactly as the leaked report described. Metal cylinders, 2 feet tall, dozens of them, maybe hundreds, stacked in organized rows, each sealed, each labeled with symbols. We approached. The German linguist read labels. These are categories: chemistry, biology, engineering, mathematics, astronomy, medicine, agriculture, energy systems, genetics. She moved down the line. Here's one labeled warnings, another history, another coordinates. The Chinese chemist opened the nearest container, hands shaking. Inside, scrolls. The same metal foil material the leaked report mentioned. Thin, flexible, covered in symbols. He unrolled one carefully. This is a chemical formula. Multiple stages. Diagrams showing molecular structures. This is advanced organic chemistry. Biochemistry. Things we only discovered in the 20th century. The Brazilian geneticist opened another container. This one's biological. DNA sequences, but annotated, modified. Showing how to alter genetic expression, how to enhance, how to extend lifespan, how to eliminate disease. Container after container, each one containing knowledge, detailed, precise, advanced. The Russian physicist opened one labeled energy. This is showing a crystalline matrix, using piezoelectric properties, generating power from pressure differentials. No fuel, no consumption, just perpetual energy from environmental forces. The Israeli engineer. That's the device in the pool. This is its blueprint. We spent 90 minutes documenting, photographing every scroll we could, taking samples, recording everything. Too much knowledge, too many formulas, too many breakthroughs. Stone softening compounds, energy generation, genetic modifications, advanced metallurgy, atmospheric manipulation, molecular assembly, mathematics beyond current understanding. All here, all preserved, all waiting. Then the German linguist found the container labeled "Warnings." She opened it.
Inside, a single scroll, larger than others, thick material, covered in dense text. She unrolled it, started reading, went pale. "What does it say?" I asked. She swallowed. "It's a timeline. Complete history of Cycle 4, year by year, from first civilization to final collapse. 2,000 years compressed into one document." She continued reading, translating aloud. "Year 7,400. Civilization emerges from previous dark age. Survivors rebuild. Knowledge partially preserved. Slow progress. Year 8,000. Agriculture mastered. Cities established. Writing developed. Mathematics advanced. Astronomy understood. Year 8,500. First great works. Monuments built. Stone techniques perfected. Trade networks span continents. Year 9,000. Energy breakthroughs. Unlimited power. Population explodes. Lifespan extended. Disease nearly eliminated. Golden Age begins. Year 9,200. Peak prosperity. 800 million population. Technology rivals gods. Hubris grows. She paused, looked at us. Here's where it turns. Year 9,300. First weapons development. Nations compete. Arms race begins. Knowledge weaponized. Year 9,350. First war. Limited. Contained. 60 million dead. Lessons unlearned. Year 9,375. Second war. Total war. All weapons deployed. Continental damage. Ocean poisoning. Atmospheric disruption. Year 9,380. Climate cascade. Cannot be stopped. Magnetic field destabilized. Ice age accelerated. Coastal flooding. Crop failures. Mass starvation. Year 9,385. 90% dead. Survivors scattered. Knowledge centers destroyed. Civilization collapsed. Dark Age inevitable. Year 9,390. Final archive created. This chamber. Sealed knowledge. Warning inscribed. She stopped. Hands trembling. Then it says, "To Cycle 5. You will find this. You will open it. You will repeat our mistakes unless you learn. Knowledge is not the answer. Wisdom is. We had knowledge. We lacked wisdom. Do not be us." Silence in the chamber. Everyone processing, understanding. The captain checked his watch. 2 hours, 50 minutes. We leave in 10. The American archaeologist. "We can't just leave. This is the most important discovery in human history." The captain. "Which is why we must leave. Document everything. Get it out. But don't stay. Don't linger.
Don't give them time to stop us. The Russian physicist. Who's them? Who stops us? The captain looked grim. Whoever's been monitoring this site, whoever classified the 2021 expedition, whoever killed researchers. They know we're here. Satellite surveillance, seismic sensors. We triggered alerts when we entered.
Clock is ticking. The Israeli engineer. How long do we have? The captain. If they scramble from McMurdo Station, 6 hours. If they have assets closer, less. We need to be gone, on open ocean, anonymous, before they arrive. We worked fast, photographed every scroll we could, took samples from the pool, documented the energy device, recorded measurements, filled drives with data. The German linguist stayed at the warning scroll, translating the final section. There's more. Instructions for Cycle 5. For us. She read. If you found this, you're advanced enough to understand, but not wise enough to stop. You'll take this knowledge, use it, repeat our pattern. Unless you choose different. Unless you decide knowledge must serve wisdom, not replace it. Unless you understand, technology is a tool, not a god. Power is a responsibility, not a right. Progress is a choice, not a destiny. We left you everything, formulas, blueprints. Knowledge to transform your world. But we also left you this warning. Choose wisely. Because if you don't, Cycle 6 will read your warning and repeat your mistakes. The pattern continues until one cycle learns. Will you be the one? Or will you be Cycle 5's final lesson? 10 minutes later, we ascended, left the chamber, sealed the entrance behind us, drove back to the ship. 6 hours across ice, wind picking up, storm approaching. As we reached the coast, we saw them. Helicopters, 3 of them, military markings, US Navy, approaching from the east. The captain. Faster, get aboard, now! We loaded equipment, abandoned the snowmobiles, scrambled onto the ship. Engines roared to life. We pulled away from the ice shelf, headed into open water. The helicopters circled, didn't fire, didn't land, just watched, documented. Message received, warning delivered. We know who you are, we know what you did. We're watching. But they didn't stop us. Because stopping us meant acknowledging the site exists, meant confirming the archive, meant revealing the secret they'd kept for decades. Easier to let us go, discredit us later, call us conspiracy theorists, deny everything. Standard protocol. We sailed for 2 days. Radio silence. No communication. Just open ocean and gray sky. On the second day, the captain spoke. We need a plan. You all have data, photos, samples, evidence. What do you do with it? The Chinese chemist. Publish. Academic journals, peer review, legitimate channels. The captain shook his head. They'll suppress it. Pressure journals. Discredit findings. You'll be blacklisted, fired, silenced. The American archaeologist. Then media. News outlets, public disclosure. Can't suppress if everyone knows. The captain. They'll call it fake. Doctored images, fabricated evidence. You'll be conspiracy theorists, laughingstock. The Brazilian geneticist. Then what? We stay silent? Let this die? The captain looked at each of us. No, you release everything, simultaneously, multiple platforms, academic and public, mainstream and alternative. Flood the zone. Too much to suppress, too many sources to discredit. Overwhelming volume. Some will call it fake, Some will believe. Some will investigate further. Truth spreads. Eventually. The Israeli engineer. And us? What happens to us? The captain. You disappear. New names, new locations, separate paths. Never communicate again. Survival through dispersal. The Russian physicist. That's not life, that's hiding. The captain. It's staying alive long enough for the truth to matter. We docked in Argentina. Different port, changed boats, split up. Each researcher took their data, backed it up, distributed it, made plans to release. I returned home. Different route, cash payments, no electronic trail. Paranoid, but alive. Spent 3 weeks organizing everything, every photo, every measurement.
Every translation, every sample analysis. Created a release package, comprehensive, documented, verified. Scheduled it to publish across 20 platforms simultaneously. Academic repositories, public forums, social media, news sites, encrypted networks, torrent sites, blockchain storage. Set the release date. Gave myself 72 hours to reconsider, to back out, to stay safe. 72 hours to choose between silence and truth, between safety and responsibility, between cycle 5 repeating or cycle 5 learning. Hour 71. I received a call, unknown number. I answered. Male voice, calm, professional, American accent. We know you went to Antarctica. We know what you found. We know what you plan to release. Silence, waiting for my response. I said nothing. He continued. We're not here to threaten. We're here to negotiate. You have information that could destabilize global security, crash economies, start wars. We can't let that happen. I spoke.
You mean you can't let people know you've been sitting on this for decades? We've been protecting it, same as Cycle 4 did, same as every cycle does. Because humanity isn't ready. History proves it. Every time knowledge advances faster than wisdom, civilization collapses. We're preventing collapse. By hiding the truth. By managing the truth. Releasing it controlled, gradual, safe. Work with us. Publish through proper channels. Academic review, government oversight, controlled disclosure over decades. You'll be credited, funded, protected. Or you release it publicly. We discredit you, destroy your reputation, seize your evidence, classify it, and you disappear. Not killed, just relocated, indefinitely, for national security. Sounds like a threat. It's a reality. We've done this before. We'll do it again. But we'd prefer cooperation. You're a researcher. We respect that. Work with us. Help us manage this responsibly. I thought for 30 seconds.
Long silence. Then,
No. Excuse me? No. I won't help you hide this. Won't help you suppress this. Cycle 4 hid their knowledge. It didn't help. Cycle 5 will find it anyway, and repeat the pattern. Unless we learn. Unless we choose different. And we can't choose if we don't know. You're making a mistake. Maybe, but it's my mistake to make, not yours. I hung up. Hour 72, release time. I sat at my computer, finger hovering over Enter key. One click. Everything goes public. No taking it back, no second chances. I thought about the warning scroll, about Cycle 4's final message, about choosing wisdom over knowledge. But here's the thing they got wrong.
You don't choose wisdom over knowledge. You choose wisdom through knowledge. You learn by facing consequences. You grow by making mistakes. Hiding knowledge doesn't create wisdom. It creates ignorance. And ignorance repeated is just stupidity with extra steps. Cycle 4 failed not because they had knowledge.
They failed because they weaponized it, used it for power instead of progress, for dominance instead of development. But that was their choice, their failure, not inherent to knowledge itself. We get to choose different, choose better, choose wiser. But only if we know the choice exists, only if we know what's possible, only if we know the truth. I pressed enter. The data released across 20 platforms simultaneously. 17,000 photos, 400 hours of video, 800 pages of translations, sample analyses, coordinate confirmations. Everything. Within 1 hour, 10,000 downloads. Within 6 hours, 1 million. Within 24 hours, global news coverage. Mainstream media, alternative media, academic discussions, government denials. The usual pattern. Believers and skeptics, supporters and detractors, truth and lies mixing until nobody knows what's real. But the evidence was there, verifiable, testable, real. Researchers worldwide started analyzing. Confirming, replicating. The stone softening formula? Tested in 12 labs, all confirmed it works. The energy device blueprints, analyzed by physicists. Theoretical framework is sound. Experimental prototypes in development. The genetic modifications, reviewed by bioethicists, debates raging. Should we? Could we? When? The Antarctic coordinates? Confirmed by satellite imagery. Structure visible, geometric, non-natural, exactly as described. Truth spreading, slowly, messily, imperfectly, but spreading. And me? I disappeared. New name, new location, new identity, following the captain's advice. Survival through dispersal. But I'm still watching, still documenting, still recording. Because the story isn't over. The release was just the beginning. Now comes the hard part. What we do with the knowledge, how we choose, whether we repeat Cycle 4's mistakes or finally break the pattern. That's not my decision. That's humanity's decision. All of us, together. I gave you the truth. What you do with it determines whether we're Cycle 5's success story or Cycle 6's warning. 6 months after release. Update. 12 countries have started Antarctic expeditions. Official ones, transparent, international cooperation, treaty compliant. All heading to the coordinates. The chamber will be excavated, properly, documented, studied. The knowledge will be shared, openly. No more secrets, no more suppression. But also regulations, ethics boards, international oversight, safety protocols, wisdom accompanying knowledge, or trying to. 3 biotech companies have already weaponized the genetic modifications. Profit over ethics. Predictable, disappointing, human. 2 nations have developed stone-softening weapons, infrastructure attacks, asymmetric warfare, also predictable, also human. But also, 4 universities have created open-source energy devices, free plans available to anyone, providing power to remote villages, disaster zones, refugee camps. Knowledge serving humanity, progress happening,
Mixed results, mixed choices, mixed future. Exactly what you'd expect from a species capable of both profound wisdom and staggering stupidity. We're not Cycle 4. Not yet. But we're not past the danger either. The warning scroll was right. We found the knowledge. We're using it. We're struggling with it. But we're aware of the struggle, aware of the danger, aware of the pattern. And awareness is the first step toward wisdom. Not a guarantee, just a chance. 1 year after release, final update. The other researchers from the expedition, all 6 of them, found dead within 9 months. Car accidents, heart attacks, suicides, all ruled natural or accidental. I'm the only one left. Last witness, last survivor, last voice. Which is why I'm recording this, why I'm releasing this video, why I'm trusting you with this story. Because if they silence me too, someone needs to know. Someone needs to remember. Someone needs to carry this forward.
Fragment 7 is real. The Antarctic archive is real. The warning is real. The choice is real. And the choice is now. Today. Yours. You've watched this far. You know what I know. You've seen the evidence. You understand the stakes. So here's what I'm asking. Don't let this disappear. Don't let them suppress it. Don't let Cycle 5 become just another warning for Cycle 6. Share this video. Download it. Repost it. Archive it. Spread it. Not because I need fame. Not because I need validation. Because the truth needs to survive. Even if I don't. Especially if I don't. The knowledge is out there now. In labs, in universities, in government facilities, in corporate R&D departments, in your hands. What happens next depends on what you do with it. Build or destroy. Create or weaponize. Share or hoard. Serve humanity or serve power. Cycle 4 chose wrong, made knowledge into weapons, turned progress into profit, used wisdom as justification for dominance. We can choose different. We must choose different, because this might be our last chance. Climate is shifting, resources are depleting, tensions are rising. The window for learning is closing. Fragment 7 gave us the tools, the warning scroll gave us the lesson, the Antarctic archive gave us the choice. Now it's on us. On you. They're coming for me. I can feel it. Phone calls from unknown numbers, cars parked outside too long, faces that appear too often. I have maybe days, maybe hours, maybe less. So this is it. My final message, my warning, my hope. If you believe nothing else I've said, believe this. The knowledge exists. The archive exists. The choice exists. And ignoring it won't make it disappear. Denying it won't make it false. Suppressing it won't make it safe. The only way forward is through knowledge, through understanding, through conscious choice. Wisdom isn't avoiding knowledge. Wisdom is integrating knowledge with ethics, with compassion, with long-term thinking. Cycle 4 had knowledge without wisdom. They failed. We have knowledge now. Do we have wisdom? That's the test. That's the choice. That's the pattern we either break or repeat. I can't answer it for you. Nobody can. Each person, each nation, each generation makes their own choice.
But know this, the ancients left us everything we need to succeed. Tools, warnings, examples, lessons. They're counting on us to learn, to choose better, to be the cycle that breaks the pattern. Don't let them down. Don't let yourselves down. Don't let Cycle 6 read our warning and shake their heads at our stupidity. Be better. Choose wiser. Break the pattern. That's the message. That's the truth. That's the legacy. Final words. If I disappear after this, if this video gets deleted, if my name gets erased, remember Fragment 7. Remember the Antarctic Archive. Remember the warning. And remember, truth doesn't need defenders. Truth needs witnesses. People willing to see, willing to speak, willing to share. You're witnesses now. All of you watching this. All of you who've made it this far. You've seen what I've seen. Know what I know. Understand what's at stake. So witness, speak, share, before it's too late. Before they delete this. Before the truth becomes myth and myth becomes nothing. The spiral with 3 dots. That's the symbol. That's the marker. That's the sign that knowledge survived one cycle and passed to the next. Let it survive this cycle too. Let it pass to the next. Let the truth keep flowing. Because that's how we break the pattern. Not by hiding knowledge, not by suppressing truth, by flowing it forward, sharing it, growing it, choosing what to do with it wisely. That's Cycle 5's test. Our test. Your test. Pass or fail. The choice is now. I've done my part. I've shared the truth. I've given you the tools. Now it's your turn. Don't waste it. Don't hide it. Don't let Cycle 4's sacrifice mean nothing. They died to leave us this warning. Died to give us this chance. Died hoping we'd be smarter, wiser, better. Prove them right. Be Cycle 5's success story, not Cycle 6's warning. The clock is ticking. The choice is yours. The future is waiting. Make it count.